So, while everyone's been hyper-focused on Squadron 42's timeline, absolutely obsessing over when it'll finally drop, something way more significant is happening right under our noses in the persistent universe. And I'm not even kidding when I say this might be the most important infrastructure change since server meshing was implemented. Let me break this down for you. The recent roadmap updates reveal something that 99% of players have completely missed. CIG isn't just adding more stuff to do, they're fundamentally rewiring how locations scale with player count. And if you're still fixated on those delayed cooperative zones, well, you're missing the bigger fundamental change that's happening right before our eyes. This transformation isn't just changing how we play today, it's reshaping the entire foundation of what Star Citizen can become over the next couple of years. When you've been tracking these roadmap updates since the early days like I have, you notice how dramatically CIG's approach has evolved. Remember back in the 3X days, we'd get a few missions and maybe a ship or two, and that was considered a major patch. God, remember how excited we all got when they added the first iteration of mining? Like that was revolutionary at the time. Thinking about those new ASD locations, and you can't help but notice the remarkable difference in environmental design compared to even 6 months ago. The level of detail, the atmospheric lighting, the way spaces feel lived in and then abandoned. It's night and day from the cookie cutter outposts we used to get. I literally stood in one of the abandoned labs for 5 minutes just taking in the details, coffee cups still on desks, half-finished research notes, emergency protocols activated mid-crisis. That kind of environmental storytelling was non-existent in earlier patches. But what really stands out isn't just the visuals, it's how these places are designed to actually function with the server tech. Whether you drop in daily or just check in every major patch, understanding these changes will completely transform your experience in the verse. At its core, this roadmap update reveals CIG's strategy for expanding the PU while Squadron 42 development continues. The roadmap shows 3 distinct categories of additions: visual enhancements like hairstyles and dynamic snow, gameplay loops through the Onyx facilities, and fundamental tech improvements with mission distribution systems. This 3-pronged approach tells us something crucial about CIG's current development philosophy. They're trying to satisfy multiple player groups simultaneously while building for the future. The visual team keeps working on immersion. The gameplay team delivers content we can interact with now, and the tech team lays groundwork for what's coming next. It's like they've finally figured out how to walk and chew gum at the same time, which, let's be honest, wasn't always the case in earlier development. Most players look at these updates like a shopping list. What am I getting and when? But that completely misses the architecture being built underneath. It's the difference between buying new furniture versus renovating your foundation. And I've been guilty of this too. Last year, I spent 3 videos ranting about the lack of new ships before I realized what was actually happening beneath the surface. And yeah, let's talk about that roadmap shrinking that has everyone up in arms. The removal of cooperative zones from 4.3 is definitely disappointing. We all wanted those safe, instance-based areas where you could work through puzzles and challenges without worrying about some random with a railgun ruining your day. I was personally looking forward to helping newer players learn the ropes without constantly looking over my shoulder. It feels like 1 step forward, 2 steps back sometimes with these roadmaps, doesn't it? But what's nice is how CIG has recategorized the Onyx facility missions as sandbox activities rather than cooperative zones. That distinction matters because it fundamentally changes what we should expect. Instead of instanced, safe gameplay, we're getting open-world locations that anyone can access, which means all the usual Star Citizen unpredictability comes with it. What's particularly significant about this recategorization is that it reveals CIG's internal prioritization. Cooperative zones were likely bumped for technical reasons, but rather than delay everything, they salvaged what was working, the locations themselves, and repurposed them for the current technical reality. If you look at CIG's development patterns over the past decade, you'll notice they rarely abandon work entirely. They just reshape it to fit current capabilities. This happened with planet-side locations, cargo refactor, and now we're seeing it with these facilities. Remember when the original cargo system was supposed to be physically based from day one? Yeah, that took, 6 years to actually implement? Something most Star Citizen content creators never cover. These new Onyx facilities represent the first true test of CIG's location scaling technology. With approximately 100 new abandoned research sites being added throughout Stanton, we're seeing the practical application of server meshing in a way that wasn't possible before 2023. Think about that for a second. 100 new locations. Remember when adding a single outpost was a major patch feature? That's the kind of scaling that server meshing was supposed to enable, and we're finally seeing it happen. Back in the early 3.x patches, adding even 10 new locations would have been unthinkable from both a performance and development standpoint. I still have nightmares about how my RID used to chug whenever I approached Levski. Now we're looking at dozens of detailed facilities with minimal performance impact. The distribution of these facilities also tells us something about how CIG is thinking about player movement throughout the system. They're not just clustered around major landing zones, they're spread across moons and planets that previously had minimal points of interest. This creates natural player distribution and gives reasons to visit areas that were previously just pretty but empty landscapes, like those areas on Daymar that were gorgeous but had literally nothing to do. Now, there's actual purpose to explore these places.
When you're exploring an ASD site near Hurston, you might notice 3 other players investigating simultaneously, yet the server handles it smoothly, a stark contrast to the slideshow we'd have experienced back in earlier patches. This matters because it's the foundation for everything coming in 1.0.
The performance improvements aren't just about higher frame rates, they're about enabling the kind of player density that makes a universe feel alive without crashing the server. Remember those days when more than 3 ships at Jumpdown would tank everyone's performance? Those technical limitations shaped gameplay in ways we don't often acknowledge. Now here's where things get hot. The mission distribution tech mentioned in the roadmap is quietly changing how Star Citizen handles player scaling. Since the project began, CIG has struggled with the problem of everyone getting the same mission in the same location. Remember the days when 20 players would all crowd the same mission objective? Remember when you'd fly to that comm array that needed reactivating and find 5 other ships already there? That was fun, wasn't it? Well, not really. I still have flashbacks to that time during Ninetales lockdown, when 30 of us were trying to dock at the same station. Absolute nightmare. The technical challenge here is balancing 3 competing goals: maintaining immersion, missions shouldn't just arbitrarily spawn everywhere, providing balanced gameplay, players shouldn't be fighting over limited objectives, and managing server resources, not creating too many unique instances. The solution they've implemented appears to create a dynamic pool of mission locations that scales with player count, but still maintains the logical consistency of the universe. That's a much more sophisticated approach than just randomly generating missions. The new system dynamically routes players to different locations based on server population, creating natural distribution that prevents crowding. This isn't just a quality of life improvement, it's essential infrastructure for when player counts increase dramatically at 1.0 launch. Consider what happens when hundreds or thousands of new players join after a major release. Without this system, starter areas would become completely overwhelmed, creating a terrible first impression. This tech is preparing for that eventuality. For beginners, this means less frustration when trying to complete basic missions. For veteran players, it means the economy will function more realistically as resources and objectives are distributed naturally across the system. The key technical achievement here is that it works with both the old mission system and the newer reputation-based mission givers like Arkan Malor from Hawkrow Agency. This represents a bridge between old and new systems, something CIG has historically struggled with. Dynamic Snow is so much more than just a visual upgrade. It represents the first complete weather system in Star Citizen that responds to actual environmental conditions rather than pre-programmed effects. What makes this implementation special compared to weather in other games is that it's not just a visual overlay, it's integrated with the game's atmosphere system, which means it interacts with visibility, ship handling, and potentially even equipment functionality. Last night I was flying my Cutlass over MicroTech during a heavy snowstorm, and I nearly crashed because I couldn't see the ridge in front of me. That wasn't just a visual effect, that was a genuine gameplay moment created by the weather system. Flying over MicroTech during the testing phase reveals something remarkable. As you descend toward a valley, the snowfall intensifies, then transitions to rain as you move toward lower elevations with higher temperatures. This isn't just pretty, it fundamentally changes how you'll navigate and plan operations in the verse. Imagine planning dropship insertions where the weather provides natural cover, or timing cargo runs to avoid dangerous crosswinds that could make landings treacherous at certain outposts. The Planetech team has quietly been revolutionizing how environments work. After Dynamic Rain in 4.2, Dynamic Snow in 4.3, we're clearly on a path toward full environmental simulation. The technical complexity behind this shouldn't be underestimated. They're not just playing weather animations, they're simulating atmospheric conditions across entire planets while maintaining performance. That's a remarkable technical achievement that doesn't get enough recognition. This matters for gameplay because it creates natural timing windows for certain activities. Picture coordinating a ground assault during a snowstorm for visual cover, or timing mining operations around weather patterns. The roadmap entries might seem cosmetic, but they're actually building a simulation layer that will make Star Citizen feel like a living universe, something we've been promised since the earliest days of development. You know those moments that remind you why you stick with Star Citizen through all the bugs and delays? There was this time, flying an MSR through Stanton, when a newer player messaged asking for help with a bunker mission. Perfect opportunity to test the state of PvE combat. After landing at this abandoned security post and explaining the usual approach tactics, something completely unexpected happened. The AI actually flanked. Not the typical running straight at you that we've all come to expect, but actual coordination using cover, nearly taking out both players. The shock is real in these moments. The new player laughing over comms saying, "I thought you said these were easy." But that unexpected difficulty creates genuine tension and collaboration that reminds you why Star Citizen, even in Alpha 4.2.1, creates stories worth telling. These new Onyx facilities seem designed specifically to create even more of these unpredictable scenarios, which might be their greatest value beyond the loot or mission rewards. What's particularly exciting about the Onyx facilities is that they're built specifically to showcase this improved AI behavior. The layouts provide multiple approach paths, cover positions, and vertical elements that let the AI demonstrate more sophisticated tactics. Unlike the bunkers, where enemies mostly just stand around waiting to be shot, these facilities are designed from the ground up with AI behavior in mind. That design philosophy, building environments that complement gameplay systems rather than just looking cool, represents a maturation in CIG's approach to content creation. The narrative integration of these facilities is also worth noting. Unlike generic missions we've had for years, these locations tell a coherent story about ASD's involvement in the regeneration crisis. Each audio log and data point you collect builds on that narrative, creating an investigative experience that's much closer to what we expect from Squadron 42 than the typical go here, shoot that missions we've been doing for years. Last week, I found an audio log that connected directly to something mentioned in a Spectrum lore post from 2019. That kind of long-term narrative planning blew my mind. So, how should you approach patch 4.3 when it goes live? First, don't rush to the new Onyx facilities expecting them to be complete. Remember, this is just 2 wings of what will eventually be a 3-part system, with a conclusion coming in 4.3.1. It's like showing up to a 3-course dinner and getting upset that dessert isn't served with the appetizer. These facilities are designed to be explored over time, with narrative elements that will continue to unfold across multiple patches.
Start by exploring the Research Labs wing, which focuses on data collection but introduces some fascinating environmental storytelling through audio logs. Take your time here. The mysteries being revealed directly connect to the broader regeneration storyline, and rushing through means missing crucial narrative details that will likely connect to future content. There's something deeply satisfying about piecing together what happened in these abandoned facilities. It reminds me of exploring derelict ships in Dead Space or reading terminal entries in Fallout. That environmental storytelling has always been one of Star Citizen's underrated strengths. The audio logs themselves contain references to other locations and events we haven't seen yet, suggesting CIG is laying groundwork for future content releases. Pay special attention to mentions of specific characters, research protocols, and dates. These often contain clues about where the narrative is headed. Some players have already started compiling databases of these narrative fragments, trying to piece together the larger story before CIG officially reveals it. That kind of community engagement with the lore is exactly what these facilities are designed to encourage. For the engineering wing, proper preparation matters more than in previous locations. Unlike earlier environments, the radiation hazards here require actual planning. Bring appropriate armor with radiation protection and pay attention to your exposure levels. This isn't like previous environmental hazards that you could mostly ignore. The radiation system appears to have real gameplay consequences, including impaired vision, movement penalties, and eventually death if exposed too long. It's almost like actions having consequences? In Star Citizen? Revolutionary concept, I know. I learned this the hard way when I went in with my standard exploration suit and nearly died before reaching the main terminal. The specific gear loadout you'll want depends on your playstyle. For quick in and out runs, the Pembroke suit provides excellent radiation protection without sacrificing too much mobility. If you're planning a longer exploration session, consider the ADP armor set, which has slightly lower protection but better sustainability for extended missions. Don't forget to bring med pens for radiation exposure. They're different from standard medical supplies and specifically treat radiation poisoning symptoms. These preparation considerations create a much more engaging gameplay loop than the typical grab gun, go shoot missions we've been doing for years. For maximum efficiency, teaming up with at least one other player makes a huge difference. The mission distribution system seems to favor parties of 2 to 3 by giving slightly different objectives that complement each other. Some players have already reported finding rare weapon attachments and components that don't appear in standard loot tables, suggesting these facilities might be worth exploring beyond just the mission objectives. And honestly, having someone watch your back while you're hacking terminals never hurts, especially since you can't trust the elevators in this game. We've all died to an elevator at some point, right? It's practically a Star Citizen rite of passage. The most efficient team composition seems to be one combat specialist and one tech/exploration-focused player. While one person handles security and watches for other players or NPCs, the other can focus on hacking terminals and collecting data. This creates natural roles that make team play feel meaningful rather than just having multiple people doing the exact same tasks. It's a small taste of the kind of specialized gameplay that Star Citizen has always promised with its multi-crew mechanics. The roadmap's evolution shows Star Citizen is in a critical transition phase, building infrastructure for massive player scaling while continuing the narrative groundwork. These systems are deeply interconnected, forming the backbone of what Star Citizen needs to become a functioning, persistent universe. Yes, features are being delayed or reclassified, cooperative zones being the most notable recent example. But that's part of development reality we've all come to accept after years in this community. I've been disappointed by delays so many times that I've developed a strange form of Star Citizen Stockholm Syndrome. Now I get worried when things actually release on schedule. When you look at the technical improvements in 4.3, you're not just seeing incremental changes. You're watching CIG address fundamental challenges that have plagued the game for years. The mission distribution system alone could transform how the verse feels populated, making locations feel alive without being overcrowded. It's addressing problems that go all the way back to the earliest PU implementations. Consider how these improvements work together. Dynamic weather creates natural gameplay variety. Improved AI creates more engaging combat. Mission distribution creates better player spreading, and narrative integration gives context to all of these activities. That's systems-based design rather than feature-based design, and it represents a maturation in CIG's approach to developing Star Citizen. Instead of just adding more disconnected features, they're creating ecosystems where existing features interact in meaningful ways.
The most exciting aspect might be how these new locations integrate storytelling into the environment itself. Unlike the generic copy-paste outposts we've had for years, these facilities tell stories through their design, with environmental clues and audio logs that build genuine mystery. Even if you're not typically interested in lore, the way these locations are constructed creates natural exploration that feels rewarding in itself. It's that sense of discovery that keeps bringing us back, despite the bugs, the crashes, and yes, the roadmap removals. The attention to detail in these facilities is remarkable compared to earlier locations. Each room feels purposeful, with environmental storytelling that reveals what happened before these places were abandoned. You'll find personal items from researchers, hastily evacuated workstations, and evidence of whatever experiments were being conducted. These spaces feel lived in and then abandoned, rather than just generic game levels.
I see. Yeah, so then because interesting was live, because I'm aware.
That kind of environmental design does more for immersion than any technical feature could. Star Citizen's roadmap isn't just a list of features anymore. It's a blueprint for how the verse is evolving into something that can actually support the game's ambitions. After years of foundations being laid, we're finally seeing systems that work together, rather than isolated features that feel disconnected from the broader experience. And while some features, like cooperative zones, get pushed back, the overall direction is clearer than it's been in a long time. When you step back and look at the progression from early 3X patches to now, the difference is stark. Early patches added features that often didn't connect to each other. Mining existed separately from trading, which existed separately from combat. Now we're seeing integration points between these systems, creating more cohesive gameplay loops. The focus has shifted from adding things to do to making things work together, which is exactly what Star Citizen needs at this stage of development. The real value in understanding these changes isn't just knowing what's coming. It's recognizing how Star Citizen is gradually transforming from a collection of tech demos into a cohesive universe. And while 4.3 won't solve every problem or deliver every promised feature, it represents another significant step toward the game we've all been waiting for. Even with the roadmap contractions and the disappointments that come with them, the path forward is more visible than it's ever been. So what's your take on these roadmap developments? Are you more excited about the technical foundations being built or disappointed by the delay of cooperative zones? And if you could design the perfect balance between safe PvE areas and open PvP zones in Star Citizen, what would that look like? Your perspective shapes our understanding of where Star Citizen stands right now, and I genuinely want to hear about your unique experiences in the verse.